Today, we're diving into ancient money tactics rich people used to get ahead. Strategies so bold and clever that echoes of them still exist today. These are financial blueprints forged in temples, empires, and marketplaces that show us how wealth has always been built and protected. Welcome back to the Money Compendium, the channel where we uncover the hidden history, strange psychology, and timeless strategies behind wealth. Now, without further delay. Number 1. Babylonian compound interest. 4,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, while most of the world was bartering sheep and barley, Babylonian elites were already using one of the most powerful money secrets ever discovered: compound interest. Clay tablets reveal loans of silver or grain at rates of 20% per year, with the interest stacking on both the original loan and the interest already earned. But how could they do this without calculators? Their scribes and priests used a base 60 math system, which made fractions and interest calculations surprisingly efficient. The Code of Hammurabi later codified the rules: how much interest could be charged, what collateral was valid, and what penalties applied if a borrower defaulted. This wasn't guesswork. It was a legally enforceable, finely tuned financial system. For nobles and temple elites, this meant their silver and grain worked for them. While a farmer's fortune rose and fell with the harvest, Babylonian lenders grew richer from contracts etched in clay. It's the same principle powering your retirement fund today. And as the Babylonians showed that money can multiply itself, the Romans took that logic and applied it to something even bigger: land. Number 2. Roman real estate syndicates. If Babylon's great innovation was compound interest, Rome's was real estate. Land wasn't just a symbol of status in Rome, it was the beating heart of wealth. But here's the problem: not every senator or merchant could run massive farms alone. The solution? Early investment syndicates that pooled wealth to buy sprawling estates, villas, and farmland. These weren't casual handshake deals. They were structured partnerships with written contracts, shared liability, and profit-splitting agreements. Cicero himself invested in rental properties, while Cato the Elder published advice on squeezing profits from estates. Rotate crops, lease carefully, manage slaves with discipline, and never let a field sit idle. These men weren't just politicians, they were shrewd landlords and business operators. The genius of syndicates was scale. By pooling money, Romans could acquire properties too massive for one family to manage, spreading both risk and reward. They reinvested profits into more land, and because senators technically weren't allowed to run businesses, syndicates offered them a discreet way to build fortunes. Sound familiar? That's almost exactly how modern REITs, real estate investment trusts, work today. And while the Romans were leveraging syndicates, Chinese merchants were building wealth through something less tangible but equally powerful: networks of trust and information. Number 3. Chinese Merchant Guild Networks. Fast forward to Song Dynasty China, around the year 1000 CE, where bustling markets and growing cities demanded something stronger than individual luck. Merchants responded by creating guilds and associations that acted like early banks, insurers, and intelligence agencies rolled into one. These guilds pooled capital to finance caravans and ocean voyages, spreading risk across dozens of traders. They negotiated lower taxes, lobbied officials, and resolved disputes internally. If a shipment of tea was lost to bandits, guild funds covered the loss. That kind of protection allowed trade to scale far beyond what a single merchant could risk alone. But their greatest asset wasn't money, it was information. Guilds maintained fast-moving communication networks. If silk prices surged in Hangzhou, word reached Guangzhou in days. They tracked currency fluctuations, crop yields, and political shifts with a precision that rivaled government intelligence. Families passed down coded communication systems and strict ethical rules, ensuring trust across generations. In effect, these guilds functioned like hedge funds and chambers of commerce combined, centuries before Wall Street existed. They proved that information and organization can be more valuable than brute capital. And while Chinese merchants were trading on trust, Egypt's elites were perfecting a different strategy. Number 4. Egyptian land, leasing and tax farming. In ancient Egypt, wealth began and ended with the Nile. Its annual floods created fertile strips of farmland that could feed entire populations. Technically, the pharaoh owned all the land, but in practice, plots were leased to nobles who sublet to farmers. This created one of the earliest passive income systems in history. Nobles collected rent in grain or silver and reinvested into more land, slaves, or storage facilities. Eventually, the system evolved into tax farming, where elites paid the crown up front for the right to collect taxes from a region. Anything they gathered beyond what they owed the pharaoh was theirs to keep. It was a high-risk, high-reward gamble. A bad harvest or rebellion could bankrupt a tax farmer, but in good years the profits were staggering. These elites employed scribes to track payments, enforcers to extract dues, and networks of agents to manage operations. Over time, some tax farmers became more feared locally than royal officials themselves. Egypt may not have had banks or stock markets, but it had a class of entrepreneurs who understood leverage, pay the state, squeeze the land, and pocket the difference. And while Egypt mastered land and taxes, the Greeks were busy exploiting currency systems in ways that sound suspiciously modern. Number 5. Greek coin debasement and currency arbitrage. In ancient Greece, every city-state minted its own coins, and not all coins were created equal. Some were heavy with silver, others lighter, yet they circulated at the same face value. The wealthy quickly spotted the loophole: currency arbitrage. A savvy merchant could collect lighter Athenian coins, exchange them in Corinth for heavier ones of equal denomination, melt those down, and pocket the surplus silver. It was free money, earned through sharp observation and clever trade. It was financial engineering 2 millennia ahead of its time. Rulers, of course, caught on and quickly started debasing their own coins, reducing silver content to stretch their treasuries during wars and massive construction projects. Inflation hit common citizens hard, but insiders who moved quickly made fortunes by trading coins before word spread. Coinage wasn't just money, it was a battlefield of trust, chemistry, and timing. Some Greeks studied philosophy in the agora, others studied the weight of coins and became early millionaires. And as Greece showed how fragile money could be, India was building a financial powerhouse. Number 6. Indian temple banking systems. In medieval India, especially in Tamil Nadu, temples in cities like Madurai and Thanjavur weren't just spiritual centers, they were full-scale financial institutions. Devotees donated gold, jewels, and land as acts of piety. But priests didn't let those treasures gather dust. They reinvested them, lending to merchants and farmers at interest rates sometimes around 12%. Records from the Chola dynasty reveal temples managing ledgers with multiple witnesses, documenting loans, repayments, and land leases centuries before Europe's invention of banking. Some temples accumulated such wealth that kings themselves borrowed from them to fund wars or construction projects. Nobody dared default on a temple loan without risking both financial and spiritual ruin. Priests became part CFO, part judge, part banker, wielding influence far beyond the sanctum. Temples proved that faith and finance could coexist and profit handsomely. But while India built wealth inside its temples, Jewish communities in medieval Europe had to build wealth outside of the systems that excluded them, creating networks that spanned entire continents. Number 7. The Jewish diaspora and cross-border finance. Now imagine being barred from land ownership, guilds, and most professions. That was the reality for many Jewish communities in medieval Europe. Yet out of those restrictions came innovation. Unable to build wealth in farms or estates, Jewish merchants and families mastered mobile capital, money, letters of credit, and long-distance trade. A merchant in Spain could issue a letter of credit to his cousin in Alexandria, who would honor it without ever moving a chest of gold. This practice allowed Jewish traders to bypass the dangers of bandits and border checks. It was the medieval version of wire transfers. Multilingual and multi-currency by necessity, they built systems of trust that moved faster than most royal courts. This wasn't just about survival, it was about resilience. When expelled from one kingdom, Jewish families could tap into their far-flung networks, rebuild, and continue trading. Their knowledge of currencies, exchange rates, and contracts gave them a competitive edge in a fragmented Europe. In many ways, they pioneered the cross-border finance that global banks rely on today. And while Jewish merchants created invisible financial highways across Europe, Persia built a physical one, an actual road that became the backbone of commerce. Number 8. Persian Royal Road Supply Chains. Think of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, stretching from Anatolia to India, one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. Holding it together required more than armies, it required logistics. So King Darius built the Royal Road, a 1,500-mile artery of inns, supply depots, and armed guards. Couriers could cross it in just 7 days, compared to the months it might take on ordinary routes. The Royal Road reduced risk, cut transport times, and created predictable trade routes. Traders could contract goods in one province and deliver them reliably in another, turning local harvests into empire-wide commerce. By enforcing standardized weights, measures, and currency exchange, the Persian state created a common framework that made trade scalable. Amazon may dominate logistics today, but Darius the Great laid the blueprint 2,500 years ago. And while Persia showed how infrastructure could empower trade, Japan's merchant clans revealed how discipline, secrecy, and planning could turn a despised social class into dynasties of hidden power. Number 9. Feudal Japan's merchant clans and silent influence. In Tokugawa-era Japan, the social order placed merchants at the bottom, beneath samurai, farmers, and artisans. Yet ironically, merchants became some of the wealthiest and most enduring dynasties in Japanese history. The Mitsui family, for instance, pioneered innovative accounting methods, introduced cash-based transactions to replace barter, and expanded from dry goods into money exchange. Another example, the Sumitomo's family eventually expanded from copper refining into finance and government projects. These families passed down codes of conduct, which outlined not only how to do business but how to live, frugally, patiently, and with an eye on the long game. In a society where warriors held swords, merchants held the debt ledgers that truly shaped power. Their strategy worked. Mitsui and Sumitomo survive today as global corporate giants. And while Japan's merchants left behind business manuals, Greece left behind something just as influential: philosophy that still underpins how we think about value itself. Number 10. Aristotle's philosophy of value and use. Few thought as deep about money as Aristotle. In works like Politics and Nicomachean Ethics, he dissected wealth, exchange, and value with clarity that still resonates. He distinguished between use value, the practical utility of a thing, and exchange value, its worth in trade. He warned against crematistics, the obsessive pursuit of wealth for its own sake, calling it unnatural and corrosive to virtue. His ideas shaped centuries of thought. Medieval scholastics, drawing on Aristotelian logic, debated just price and the morality of interest. Even Enlightenment giants like Adam Smith and Karl Marx wrestled with Aristotle's frameworks as they built modern economic theory. Aristotle wasn't minting coins or trading on markets, but his philosophy framed how societies debated the role of money itself. The richest merchants may have built empires of gold and land, but the richest minds left blueprints for systems that would shape civilizations. So what can we learn from all this? That wealth isn't new. The systems, mindsets, and strategies we think of as modern are thousands of years old, refined, repeated, and recycled through history. The ancients weren't just surviving, they were innovating, building the financial DNA we still live by today. The real question is, which of these ancient money tactics do you think still works best in today's world? Is it compound interest, real estate syndicates, merchant networks, or maybe Aristotle's timeless philosophy of value? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're ready to keep building your financial wisdom, make sure you're subscribed to the Money Compendium. Because the next lesson in money's hidden history might just be the lesson that takes you from broke to glory.